The League of the Genuine is back. We are back with a special edition of this program, which is dedicated to giving you and everybody else out there information about the menace of counterfeits. This is a special edition because we are here in the members' lounge in the Parliament of Uganda. This is historical for us because several years ago in 2017, the Anti-Counterfeit Network organized the first ever parliamentary expo on counterfeits, which, as you will know, led to the withdrawal of the old anti-counterfeit goods bill. So it is befitting that we are here again to discuss the issue of the new anti-counterfeit goods bill 2023. To help us discuss this important subject is none other than the mover of the private members bill.
I beg to move a motion seeking leave of this august House to introduce a private members bill entitled the Anti-Counterfeit Bill.
This House grants leave to Honorable Suman Basanira to introduce a private members bill entitled the Anti-Counterfeit Bill. Those in favor say on the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
Honorable Asumani Basalirwa, MP for Bujiri City. Is it a city as yet?
It is a municipality.
Why don't you vie for a city?
Because we will get there.
You will get there. But
yes.
you are welcome.
Thank you.
To the show.
Thank you.
And Honorable, we were, as the Anti-Counterfeit Network, were very, very pleased that after so many years of trying to get an anti-counterfeit law on the floor of Parliament, you managed to pull it off. Can you tell the audience what motivated you to come up with this otherwise important bill, which many people think is not important? What was the motivation?
First of all, I want to thank you. I could say the Anti-Counterfeit Network Africa could be one of the motivations. I have seen and followed what you've been doing in Uganda and the region. And I must say I'm really pleased and delighted that there are private sector players out there who are as interested in this subject as myself. So my motivation is 2 or 3-fold. Number one, there are things that continue to disturb me. I was blessed to have lived with my great-grandmother. And I keep asking why they lived for a very long period of time. And by the time she died, well, my grandmother and my father estimated her age to be around 120 years. Estimate.
Wow.
I'm not so sure whether they were exact. But we cannot live for that period of time anymore. And one of the things that keeps disturbing me relates to what is around us, what we consume, what we use in our daily lives. For example, there are increasing cases of cancer in this country. People have not found out why it is the case.
More than 20,000, I think.
Yes. And my father is a cancer patient. You are finding young people wearing specs. Children in primary school are wearing specs. We knew of diseases that were a preserve for older people.
Diabetes. These days you have a 10-year-old
pressure,
diabetes.
And the like. We have seen instances where bodies are being resistant to all forms of medication, these syrups around the country. And my studies and my investigations point to one aspect: increasing cases of counterfeit in our society. you see increased cases of road accidents. Even in Parliament here where we are now, MPs have died in road accidents. And we ask for reports on the causes.
The cause, yes.
And people are talking about overspeeding. Usually they jump on overspeeding, drunken driving. Nobody is looking at, for example, the quality of the tires of our vehicles. Nobody is looking at the quality of our roads and the materials that are used to construct the roads. And for me, I have come to a conclusion that we are living in what I call a cycle of fakeness. You go to a supermarket, sometimes with fake money, you buy a fake product, you go and...
The teller is also fake with a fake degree, maybe?
You go with fake money to a fake supermarket, you buy a fake product from a fake person, gives you fake change, fake balance, you move out, enter a fake car, go in your fake house, you are confronted with...
You eat fake food.
Fake food. So it's a cycle of fakeness. So when I look at these aspects, they motivate me, they motivated me. But also more importantly, as a politician, I usually interest myself in pieces of legislation that have been nullified by courts. And I ask why, and try to bring them back and make them better. It's what I did with the narcotics law. I am doing the same on the anti-pornography law. I try to look at pieces of legislation that became, or that didn't make it. And
like anti-counterfeit
goods bill is one of those pieces of legislation that did not have its way. So again, my other motivation relates to that aspect as a legislator, and that's precisely why I had to take this direction of bringing this bill.
Honorable, we need to applaud you and anybody out there who loves the well-being and safety of society should really applaud you. As people who have been in this space for a long time, we know that counterfeiting is a complicated thing. Not many people understand it. For example, I'll mention that Parliament passed the UNBS Amendment Act in 1983, where they gave more powers to UNBS, more punishments for substandard and so on. And even UNBS made a report in 2018 saying that more than 54% of products on the market are fake.
They're fake, yes.
But it has taken Parliament about 6 years since that UNBS report for a brave man like you to come up and say enough is enough. We need to fight these fakes. Do you feel that there is a proper understanding of the magnitude of the issue by Parliament?
Yes and no. No, in the sense that if we really knew and appreciated the dangers of counterfeit, this law should have come yesterday. But yes, in the sense that actually people out there know counterfeits, but perhaps suffer from negligence, normalcy, and other related aspects. But if only we knew and understood and appreciated the impact of this entire phenomenon of counterfeit, then perhaps as a policy, no piece of legislation would be passed in Parliament without a component of counterfeit.
Anti-counterfeit policy.
Like, for example, there is what we call certificate of gender equity. When you are to bring a law, you must ensure that that component or aspect is well captured. So if we knew the impact, perhaps we would be developing what we call a certificate of anti-counterfeit compliance or something like that.
Are you promising us that this can be done?
Precisely. This is one of the aspects I want to be incorporated in this bill. And that's the only way we can help the country and perhaps the community. So that every aspect as a matter of law and policy, issues to do with the counterfeit or anti-counterfeit are well catered for or provided for in our pieces of legislation.
Before now we go to the bill itself.
Yes.
It is very welcome to have that anti-counterfeit policy, or every legislation must conform. But still dealing with Parliament, you have more than 14 standing committees, sectoral committees, and
Yes.
I'm always watching news in your committee meetings. You are there questioning people, you are taking tea, you are eating mandazi, you are eating
Yes.
granuts.
Yes.
All these things are susceptible to counterfeiting. How is Parliament, in the conduct of its work, protecting itself against counterfeits? Because you could be eating these things as you're passing these laws. You could be eating counterfeits.
You see, we are all victims. And the fact that we are MPs, it does not in any way take us from the bracket of victims. We all suffer from negligence. We all suffer from lack of information. We all suffer from that scrutiny in what we eat, how we move, what we dress in, and we are victims.
So don't you think that you don't just need a policy in passing of legislation, but you also need a policy in the public procurement for Parliament? You are buying fake pens, I'm sure you're buying fake paper, you're buying fake tires for your cars, you're buying counterfeit food. Don't you think that it should go further, even in your practice and way of life,
you see,
as MPs?
You see, we need to amplify the problem. Because I will tell you, people don't know that it's a problem. If you corner any of us in this house, in this Parliament, if you corner any of us to explain or to try and give insight into this entire concept of counterfeit, don't be surprised if a good number are telling you there is no big problem. So what we are doing, first of all, is to try and amplify, tell people to understand that this is a very big problem. If we don't, then our efforts will not yield the results. So these engagements we are having, and the fact that now there is a bill, gives us an opportunity to tell everybody out there that there is a problem, there is a crisis that needs immediate attention. And I hope, I have all the conviction that passing of this law, in my view, will bring or cause a very good foundation. In fact, going forward, procurement processes, not only for Parliament, but even government agencies, even private agencies, will now be guided. And perhaps their eyes will be more opened in as far as this issue is concerned. So, this law, in my view, is going to be an eye-opener in many respects. And that's why I want us to give a lot of focus and attention to it.
Because this is a societal vice which requires a behavior change approach. Parliament should provide leadership in the behavior change on fighting counterfeits. You are our leaders. And they say fish starts to rot from
The head.
the head. So
Yes.
you are part of the head.
Yes.
If MPs are not showing leadership in fighting counterfeits, because we follow you, the fight is going to be weakened. For
Yes.
example, how many MPs have genuine phones in this Parliament? Because electronics and phones are among the most faked. If you are busy debating this anti-counterfeit goods bill,
Yes.
and you are busy using fake phones, don't you think that's countermanding the effort?
But you see, you also have to be fair to us. How many of us have even the capacity to differentiate between a fake phone and a genuine one? How many of us? Until an opportunity like this arises, that we begin to open up people's eyes and minds. Because counterfeits thrive where there is failure to differentiate between quality and fake. So, how am I even supposed to know?
I want to suggest to you
Yes.
that as you are on this crusade of this anti-counterfeit goods bill, maybe there are certain things you are going to do off the floor of Parliament and quietly speak to the Parliament leadership, carry out a census and give us the results later.
No, you
How
see-
many genuine phones
No,
are in
you see
this
what
house?
I'm going to do? This particular bill, I want us to take even a more practical approach. I want to go on the floor of the House with examples of goods that we use in our daily lives
The
that are
fast-moving consumer goods.
that are actually fake. That's the only way we are going to open up people's minds. Even the phones you are talking about. I should be able to get phones and demonstrate on the floor. Maybe for the first time, we are going to have a bill that goes beyond merely presenting what
On
is
paper.
exactly. I want to carry phones and say, right on the speaker, by the way, check your phone.
You
Maybe-
could actually be
Yes.
presiding over a house condemning fakes.
When we are thriving on fakeness. So I think it's really a bigger issue, it's a bigger concern, but I think part of what we should be doing is what we are doing now, you know, alerting people out there
Awareness.
and helping them to understand that perhaps what you see with your eyes may actually not be genuine, and because it's a very big challenge out there.
Now, let's go to the bill itself. I have looked at it and commend you for having come up with the draft, which is a good starting point. One of the things you have done is to define counterfeiting.
Yes.
In many words, you
Yes.
are saying this is the process of manufacturing, packaging, labeling,
Yes.
of a product which imitates
The designing and what?
which imitates the original brand. But I feel that definition might be allowing some aspects of counterfeiting to escape. For example, we have found that a lot of the products that are counterfeited are counterfeited because the genuine product is emptied, assuming it's engine oil, and the container is thrown there.
Yes.
And then the counterfeiter gets it
And,
and puts a seal, and it goes to NASA and puts a nice, and that product is brought back on the market. Somebody may say that I have not manufactured. For me, I have just repacked. Okay?
yes.
Is the definition of counterfeiting, according to you, going to arrest such conduct where we have refills, where we have repackages? Because you are talking of packaging. Is repackaging and refill part of it?
Yes, first of all, there are 2 or 3 aspects you need to understand about this law. Actually, the bigger mischief. In the history of the different pieces of legislation that deal with the counterfeit, in one way or the other, this is going to be the first piece of legislation to define counterfeiting in broad terms.
Because we don't have a definition.
Yes,
Trademark Act doesn't
exactly.
define.
This is what I am saying. That the existing pieces of legislation, none defines counterfeiting in broad terms.
Why is that important to define?
It is important because how are you going to create criminal liability? Because according to our constitution, somebody can only be charged with an offense that is known, described. That's what our constitution says. Number 2, with the broader definition, you now have a bigger latitude of enforcement. The issue you raise, packaging,
And refilling.
repackaging, refilling, redesigning, all those aspects, we want to define them and make them criminal, so that somebody does not hide under refilling and go away with it.
For
Because-
example, gas.
Y-
The
yes.
gas we use to cook.
Yes.
these containers,
They are already there.
they're already there.
Somebody refills.
Somebody goes and
Refills with
puts
a,
in a
yes,
fake gas,
a fake gas.
and then sells it as a well-known brand.
Because the material or the drum,
The vessel for carriage
the
is the
vessel
same.
for carriage is the same. And let's say the vessel is genuine. Okay?
Of course, it will be genuine.
Yes, but the content...
The cylinder is genuine.
Yes, the cylinder is genuine, but the content is fake. Now, if you don't define and criminalize repackaging, refilling, then you are not helping. One of the mischiefs that this law is curing is to, for the first time, to broaden. Because under the existing intellectual property laws, it is very easy to go away with it. Either patent or trademark or copyright, very easy to go. Even under
small fines.
Even under the UNBS laws, it is very easy to go away with it.
The fines.
If somebody will hide under refilling, repackaging, redesigning. But you see, with this bill that we are bringing, we have tried as much as possible to make it broader, so that criminal liability is also broadened, and nobody has room for escape.
What I like about the bill is that most of the intellectual property laws that protect creations, be it copyright, be it plant breeders, be it, they treat counterfeiting or infringement of IP as a misdemeanor, minor. If you look at most of them, punishment, 18 months, small fine, 20 currency
and that's a very big problem. And I'll tell you why. Just look at the impact counterfeit can cause on society. In fact, the counterfeit is capable of creating a genocide. You know this recent case in Nakanyonyi?
The school where kids got poisoned.
Yes, poisoned food. Imagine somebody would have killed the whole school.
150 children
yes,
fell sick.
Somebody could have killed the whole school. And then you get the suspect, have them convicted, and you are sentencing them 18 months. That's a travesty of justice. Single travesty of justice.
So what are you doing in the bill?
Exactly.
To increase the punishment?
First of all, we are making the punishments very heavy. Both the custodial sentences and the fines. We are making them very heavy. But as you know, at this point in time, this is a draft.
What are you proposing? How many years?
We are proposing 7 years.
That's a felony.
Yes, a felony. But we even want to, for example, you see, I know that we have divided opinion on many aspects here. Take an example of where somebody through counterfeit causes mass death. Why don't they go for life imprisonment? Why?
So you can charge them with counterfeiting,
yes,
plus you charge them with murder also.
Yes,
that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. And people should go for life imprisonment. And we should never be misunderstood. You see, some of these counterfeits have long-term effects. And by the time you realize, the situation is irreversible. So are we really going to use these simpler punishments, simpler fines?
The legal jurists will, I know they will be saying counterfeiting cannot be a minor and cognate offense of murder or all this. But I think the important point you're making here is that, for example, we have petitioned the International Criminal Court to say that counterfeiting of certain products is a crime against humanity. And when we went into the Rome Statute of the ICC, we saw the definition of crime against humanity is a crime that causes mass and indiscriminate death, which is what you're describing.
Exactly.
So I think you can have a standing there for now to say, okay, can I increase, amplify it to a felony just like murder? Okay. But now, don't you think, looking at our criminal law, as a lawyer, you know that aiding and abetting of any criminal offense makes you a principal offender.
Exactly.
Now, the people who are helping the transportation and storage of counterfeit products, are they covered by this bill?
They will be covered by the general criminal laws of the country. Broadly, because you know, under our penal code, aiding and abetting is in itself a crime.
Yes.
But there is nothing, without prejudice to aiding and abetting under criminal law, under penal code, there is nothing that stops us from making specific provisions under the anti-counterfeiting goods bill. Nothing that stops us from putting aiding and abetting as part of the counterfeiting offense, and therefore to attract higher penalties than what is provided under the penal code.
You know, I'm raising
There
this.
is nothing that stops us from saying
Do you know why I'm raising this? A lot of landlords will allow anybody to open shop, and maybe they are not taking care to see what this person is doing. The same way, if somebody rents your house
Yes.
and is busy chopping off people's heads in that rented house, if the police comes to arrest your tenant, do you know that even you as a landlord, you are taken for questioning?
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
why shouldn't we question landlords
Definitely.
who allow counterfeits, especially if they become aware that
No.
you are dealing in illegitimate?
No, you can make it a strict liability offense so that people become more cautious and sensitive.
So that we deny the counterfeiter
Yes.
shop space.
Exactly. You see, if you make it a strict liability, you are going to make, for example, owners of premises to be more cautious. You want to come and you want to hire space for storage. How genuine are your products? Because should I allow you,
I'm also going to be
I'm
liable.
also going to be liable.
Yeah.
It is most likely, even the shops and supermarkets, if we made it strict liability, before they procure goods to place in their supermarkets, the issue of ascertaining authenticity and originality will become central
So
in their
food for
decision
thought.
making.
Food for thought.
Yeah,
Since you are in
these
draft.
Fortunately, we will consult. We will consult widely, and I'm very sure that part of the processes of consultation will bring legal minds.
Yes.
And I hope that by the time the consultation process and exercise is over, we will have canvassed some of these issues that we are discussing.
However,
here.
there's another issue. There is a common practice where a brand will contract a factory or a manufacturer
Yes.
to manufacture for it, let's say, packaging material, let's say bottles of their product. Sometimes even garments. They
Yes.
will contract somebody in a country to manufacture. Now, this
It
contractor,
happened. You know, it happened with the COVID drugs.
yes. Now, this contractor, what this contractor does, you order for 100,000 bottles. Let's say it's a beverage,
Beverage.
the shape and so on. That manufacturer manufactures 100,000 which you ordered, and he manufactures some 10,000 for himself, and then he gives those bottles to the fakers. Okay, that's how you end up with what we call grey goods. These will be goods which are actually genuine. They bear the trademark of the owner, but they are factory overruns because they have been produced beyond the authority of the brand owner. How do you think you should deal with these kind of people who, and many of them, some of them are actually distributors, territorial representatives. You are appointed to distribute a certain product, and then you go to China and also manufacture that product and you bring it to the store. Should this be covered under the bill?
It should. It should. And that's why I said one of the things we should be doing is broadening the definition. Where, for example, you go beyond what you have been assigned to do. Because the danger with that, I will tell you, is the risk of producing, if you are talking about bottles for beverages, this bottle may easily end up with a beverage which is not the real beverage of the manufacturer.
Yes.
But
It looks
the same. It looks the same. So the issue of going beyond your contractual quantities, if I can use that word,
should be
yes,
counterfeiting.
it must also be covered under counterfeit, because it will give stronger protection to the brands. Because you see, this contractor will end up duping. Actually, it will be duping the public, and that's what we intend to fight or guard against. So I want us to critically look at that issue. Especially, you are talking about suppliers, you are talking about contractors. You can build different scenarios in one way or the other. You've seen there are some big brands, as you know, where even doctors, we can use the medical field for example. Somebody will be working in a hospital, very big hospital, and then they have their own clinic somewhere aside. So in that instance, they might get the real drugs the other side. Then because of excess production, they'll put these other drugs in there
on the side,
the sidelines,
and put them on the market later.
They put them on the market. Now you see the danger that has, it will even affect the economy. The socio-economic impact will be great, because somewhere, somehow, there is loss. It could be loss of revenue,
to government,
yes, to
loss
government,
of employment,
and the rest. So it's really a very big risk, which should be covered, in my view.
Honorable, still, again, because of our deep understanding of this subject, we have experienced situations where sometimes the counterfeiting occurs under the nose of the brand owner. You find a sales manager, a marketing manager of a certain brand having a side business, getting the empties or the packaging or whatever, and manufacturing in a small cottage somewhere in a home this very product, and using, for example, the vans that transport, or the trucks that transport the genuine product. And this gentleman actually puts the fake product on the truck, and it is supplied to you as an agent of this product, but it is fake. Don't you think that the definition of counterfeiting should also include those unscrupulous and unethical brand owners who fake their own products?
For me, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter whether you are a brand owner or you are...
Provided you counterfeit.
Provided you are engaged in acts that we are describing as counterfeit, you must face the consequences of the law. It doesn't... The who, in my view, should not be an issue. What should be an issue is the how and why. How you've done it. Actually, not why, but how you've done it. If you've done it outside the parameters of the law, it shouldn't matter.
But can't that create a challenge, since we know that the basis of any anti-counterfeit legislation primarily is to protect the intellectual property owner. This is basically the motive.
Yes.
That you have invested, you have created something, you have an innovation, you trademark it, you patent it, we need to protect you. So, but you're saying that if we can expand it, if you involve in subversive activities, we should also catch you, because in the end you are harming.
Yes.
You are harming the public.
Let me explain where the problem is. You create an impression in the public that this is your standard, this is your quality, this is who you are. You as a brand owner or a manufacturer. So we act on that belief.
And faith and promise. And then you let us down.
Then you yourself, you compromise.
For a profit motive.
Exactly. You compromise. How? And you think you want to go scot-free? I think at all times, if you make an impression out there of standard. It could be in terms of quality, it could be in terms of quantity. At all times, you must maintain that. Once we discover that there is compromise in one way or the other,
you will not compromise.
The law should not compromise. It is just like you see in our criminal laws. When you want to take away your life,
it is a crime.
It is a crime. Why? Why would it be a crime?
Suicide is a crime. Otherwise, they would have said it's your life.
It's your life. Precisely, this is what we are saying. So you don't say, but after all, this is my product.
So even if anti-counterfeiting laws appear to be protecting private property rights,
exactly,
they have a shared public interest.
And that's because
as long as this private property right is a product at the end of it which comes to the public,
exactly,
the public has an interest.
Exactly. Even if it were not to come to the public, and I don't know in what case that would be, we still have a duty. Society still has a duty to protect you. You. Even if you are saying that in any case this is for my own use, my past. Because you see, look at this scenario where you are compromising your own standard or quality or even health. You'll still want to go to the hospital and there will be drugs.
Would you want substandard or counterfeit drugs?
That's one. But
you wouldn't.
You see, because you are saying, but this is about me, money would have been used to procure those drugs. So it means if you were, if you had faith, if you had not compromised your quality, those drugs would have been used on some other person who genuinely contracts a disease. So I think you must be able to look at it from that perspective.
So what you're saying is that counterfeiting anywhere is counterfeiting everywhere.
Precisely.
When you counterfeit Vaseline,
yes,
you are promoting a counterfeit culture of milk and everything else.
Precisely.
Some people have said that this law may have limited relevance because a lot of the products we consume on the market are not trademarked, they are not registered. Somebody listening to you who goes and buys groundnuts from the market, which are, you know, prepared in the market and contaminated. Somebody puts in stuff there, or somebody who is taking milk, which is not trademarked, but this ordinary milk in the whatever, where they put cassava, they put other things. They feel that your law will not be relevant to them. These untrademarked products, which are also fake.
No, I think.
Can you call them counterfeit? Are you going to?
No, I think what we should be doing, and what I want the law to do, is the bigger goal, or the bigger mischief, is to look at counterfeiting in a broader sense. I've already mentioned it. Whether a product is trademarked or not, whether the product is protected in one way or not, as long as in our broader understanding there is compromise in what is acceptable. And again, what is acceptable is also known. So somebody should not be able to hide under the fact that this is not protected, this is not trademarked, to engage in counterfeit. The law, we should structure the law in such a manner that liability will go to those engaged in what we call trademarked products and those that are not trademarked or unprotected.
So basically what you're saying, because for example trademark registration is territorial. You register in Uganda, you register in Kenya. We have situations, and why I might agree with you, we have situations of well-known marks in the market, but maybe they are not registered here. You're saying that protection should also extend to those marks, even if they are not registered here. They will also be, if you counterfeit that mark registered in another country but not registered here, you're saying the law should also get hold of you.
And that will boost even investor confidence. If people know that they are going to come to a country where there is protection of diverse intellectual properties. It is one of the avenues of attracting investors
for
and
indirect
boosting
investment.
even
And maybe just to
investor
support,
confidence.
support what you're saying, one of the IP laws, like on copyright, if today, Honorable, you composed your song and you didn't go to URSB to register it, and I copy it, you can still sue me for copyright infringement, even without registration.
You see, for example, you and I know, or for example, the concept of notorious facts under the law of evidence. You know of the concept of judicial notice, where something is judicially noticed. No need to even prove. It is judicially noticed. So those principles and concepts should be able to apply even in instances where we are now.
One of the other things I have heard about the bill, some people have said we don't need a bill because we already have laws protecting, for example, trademark infringement. What do you say to them?
No, there are 2 or 3 things why we need this bill. Number one, we have international obligations. Both regional and international obligations created under treaties and protocols
On IP.
intellectual property. Look at, for example, at the regional level. Kenya already has anti-counterfeit authority. Tanzania has something in that line. Rwanda has, we are lagging behind. That's one. Number two, when you look at the existing intellectual property laws, they are lacking in 2 respects. One, very narrow in both scope and application.
First, they don't define counterfeit.
Yes, that's what I mean. They are very narrow in scope and application. They don't give enough space and attention to what we call counterfeit. But even those that do, look at the penalties. Very laughable. So there is no way you are going to assert that the law is that necessary. And 3, and more importantly in my view, Uganda does not have a single uniform law on counterfeit. What I would call a one-stop center. If you're a researcher, you are an academician, you are a scholar,
you will not find it.
You are a practitioner, and you are looking for a law on counterfeit in Uganda, you will not find it. So what is going to happen is that you are going to look at go into trademark, get something there, go
plant
into
breeders.
patent, plant breeders, get something there, which is problematic. And I'll give you another example. When we enacted the Anti-Corruption Act in Uganda, it didn't mean that there were no laws on corruption. They were actually there.
To consolidate it.
But one, they were scattered. Number 2, they were not broad. Number 3, they had what I would call laughable fines, sentences and penalties. And then we had to consolidate. So I am looking at a one-stop center.
Okay.
A piece of legislation that will broadly address, define all aspects.
So this is
related to
the
counterfeit.
Anti-Counterfeit Goods Bill. If it becomes a law,
Yes.
it will be a statute of general application.
Exactly.
On counterfeit.
Exactly.
Now, some confusion. I've seen some people saying, but we have UNBS, we have the UNBS law, we don't need this law. Now, under this bill, the mandate to implement the Anti-Counterfeit Goods Bill is being given to who?
Now, what we want to do, first of all, is to recognize the existing institutions that are mandated in one way or the other to deal with this aspect.
In their respective sectors.
In their respective sectors. But we would want to have what we would call a focal committee or coordination committee that will bring stakeholders from the existing agencies. And we want to mandate that. The other thing we want to do is to ensure that we know where to go. We
so
know where to
are you
go.
giving mandate to everyone, in which case it will be difficult to implement?
No,
Everybody will say it
no,
is your
we
duty.
are not giving mandate
Or
to
are you
everyone.
saying that customs, for example,
Yes.
you have mandate to stop counterfeits through the stoppage of prohibited goods?
Yes.
Do your work under this law, take the punishments from here,
Yes.
and punish.
The issue I'm raising is that we have, you have talked about UNBS, you have talked about customs, you can talk about NEMA, you can talk about URSB. Those different agencies have mandate in their respective dockets. But in terms of what I would call a focal person, we want to have a coordinating committee or a coordinating agency that brings all those agencies, brings stakeholders together
Without creating necessarily
without
a new
creating
agency.
a new agency.
Okay.
So we say UNBS bring a person, URA bring a person, maybe NEMA bring a person, and we create a coordinating agency committee under this law that will be responsible for one, even implementation of the law, but also to monitor these other agencies. Okay, because when we ask now, who monitors them? Who monitors generally what UNBS does? Oh, URSB or one. So we are trying to look at, but this body will not create a charge on the consolidated fund, because it is going to use, first of all, those who have been referred to this coordinating committee, whatever name we shall choose, will just be an assignment. Added assignment. What usually happens in what we usually do. So it is not that we are going to leave everything to everybody. But
we will try to
concentrate. Whereas we will not take away mandate, but because we are broadening mandate, broadening definition, you definitely need a central coordinating committee.
However, as we wind up, as the Anti-Counterfeit Network, we have tried very much to increase public sector awareness about counterfeits. We've done trainings for the judiciary, for the prosecutors, for the police. We have also, on behalf of Uganda, tried to, we've entered into partnerships and arrangements with the Anti-Counterfeit Authority of Kenya. We are doing things with Interpol. How is this bill going to promote public awareness against the vice of counterfeits, and how is it going to improve regional cooperation and engagement?
The process of enacting a law in Uganda involves public participation. One of the things that we want
Are you going to do public participation?
When circumstances permit, we will try as much as possible to carry out public participation across the country.
On this bill?
On this bill. In fact, what we want to do is to hold regional and sub-regional meetings. The people must own this law. So we want to have regional and sub-regional meetings to get the views of the Wananchi. This ordinary person, very deep in Bujiri, in Arua, in Chisoro, in Mbarara, in Masaka, must have an input. So phase 2 really is about going out to the public. Then we will engage other stakeholders. And I am calling for partnerships, especially in the areas of sensitization, awareness, and public participation. And we are grateful to the Anti-Counterfeit Africa Network, your organization, and what we are doing. We want to partner with the private sectors like you to reach out to the Wananchi, reach out to the people, and try to sensitize them about this bill, and also to get the views.
Even after the bill is passed, you will sensitize on
Definitely,
implementation.
because you see, there are 2 or 3 aspects. There is pre-legislation sensitization,
and post.
And then the post. All those are very critical. In fact, post is more critical than pre, because then we want to know how the bill is impacting or creating change. So we still have some way to go.
Okay. What's your view on public taxation of counterfeits?
It's a contradiction.
Should we be taxing,
No, it's a
allowing
contradiction.
imports which are fake, you tax them, then afterwards you grab them, and the traders are usually complaining that why does the government collect taxes when the goods are fake?
It's a very big contradiction. That contradiction also arises out of lack of clarity in the law, depth of the law, the scope and application. So once we pass this law, I'm very sure the issue of taxing counterfeits will be history. But it's really a contradiction that you tax a counterfeit, because a counterfeit by nature means illegality.
It's from organized crime.
Exactly.
It is like saying that
Mm.
we've been having cases of these panga welding thugs
Exactly.
and robbers.
Exactly.
It's like saying we recognize that activity, this organized crime. Each raid, each burglary you make and robbery you make, bring a million.
Bring a million.
And then you take that
So
money.
it's a contradiction, but I think the bigger challenge has been lack of clarity in the law, also lack of depth in the law. So we are also trying to help government here in this law. But also they will be able even to collect more taxes and more revenue when you regularize, when you regularize products and have quality products on
But
the
whereas
market.
we can blame the taxman for collecting taxes
Yes.
from counterfeits, some people may want to blame you, the politicians. They might also say that you are allowing counterfeits to flourish on the ground. How? Politicians will fear to antagonize their voters, even if they are engaging in counterfeit acts. They will turn a blind eye to them because they want to get votes. To what extent is this possible?
I think we would be doing a disservice to try and protect counterfeiting.
Whether you are going to get a vote,
We would be doing
or
a very
not.
big disservice, and I'll tell you why. Actually, the long-term negative consequences should be able to alert us and call to our civic responsibility and duty. The long-term consequences on the health, on the economy, and other aspects. So if you really love the people, and the politicians really love their people, if you really love the people, you can only deal with the people who
by
are protected.
protecting them.
Yes, who are protected from all forms of substandard, compromised goods in one way or the other. That's the only way. So I think we should be able to sensitize. And you see, we should also be able to tell people that if you trade in quality goods, you'll even get more profits. It is more profitable to engage in
Because
quality.
the customer will come back
Yes.
satisfied.
Satisfied.
But if you give a fake product,
Yes. In fact, let me tell you, the day this customer finally realizes
that you are fake,
that is getting cancer because of you, you'll even see increased cases of mob justice. A person will get a panga to say, my father died because of you. They will cut each other. So even for sanity in society, it is important that we educate our people on the need to ensure that we deal in quality and original.
genuine. The president recently, on this World Bank saga of cutting loans and so on, said that many of these loans were being contracted improperly or irregularly, and money is being wasted. But from a counterfeit angle, for us, we know that a lot of these loans we contract are actually wasted on counterfeits. You borrow a loan to build a hospital, you put fakes in there. The hospital starts leaking. You borrow a loan to do a bridge, the bridge cracks. You borrow a loan. How is Parliament, because you are the ones who approve these loans,
That's true.
how are you going to ensure that these loans, external loans we contract, are not going to waste, are not going to counterfeits?
Once we have a law in place, that will follow logically.
And an anti-counterfeit policy in every legislation,
Yes, that
every
will,
loan.
that will follow logically. Because I'll give you an example. We will borrow to construct the roads, for example. Now, because you have an a law on counterfeit
and an anti-counterfeit policy.
and anti-counterfeit policy, you are going to use the right cement. Okay? You are going to use the right fuel. You are going to use the right oil. You are going to use the right culverts and all that kind of thing. So it will follow logically that whatever we will be procuring, whatever we will be having in the country, you see, what we want to do is to make it extremely risky for anybody, either in public or private life,
to engage in counterfeiting
in one way or the other.
Honorable, as we send you off the hot seat, where I need to commend you, you've done so well. On this platform, we have identified several drivers of counterfeiting.
Yes.
The reasons why we have counterfeit.
Yes, yes.
We call it dankani. Depreciation, people can't depreciate. Affordability, some people will say poverty. We've said no man say it's no more. We've said we don't know the concealed danger. We've said it's convenient. We've said aspiration, especially the young people aspiring to, you know, so they end up buying fakes. We've talked of negligence, both on the side of the consumer, on the side of the regulator. For example, Honorable, when did you last check expiry date of a product when you're buying or checking ingredients?
Yeah.
We've talked of ineffective cooperation. On the one hand, customs allows fake to come in.
Yes.
Then on the other hand, police arrests the product.
Yes.
We are not coordinating.
Yes.
Which, according to you, is the biggest driver of counterfeiting? Or all of them?
I can't state with certainty. But you remember at the beginning of this show, I talked about depreciation. Depreciation. But I don't even want depreciation to be an issue. For me, I want to look at the concealed dangers. Concealed dangers, normalcy, and affordability
are big for you.
Are very big for me. And let me tell you why depreciation may not be a very big issue. You've been to shops, and somebody will tell you, this is for this country. I will not mention the country. This is for this country, and you know
this
what
is
they
copy.
Yes, you know what they
Copy.
produce in this country. This is for this country. Let me take this one. So even after they have known, sometimes these people in these big shops are fair enough
to tell you the difference, and you still choose
knowingly. So I don't want to think that's a very big issue. But the issue of affordability, normalcy, and concealed dangers, in my view.
What about negligence? We are too negligent.
Well,
how can you as a father go and get poisoned food, and you take
but you
to
see,
your family? Isn't it because you couldn't differentiate?
No, you see, that can be overridden by the concealed dangers. You say, you will suffer. You are hungry, eat, no problem. We used to eat this. They even say we used to eat this, not knowing that so many things have changed. So the issue of if people knew the dangers, if these dangers were not concealed, if people knew the dangers, I'm telling you, there will be self-censorship.
Self-regulation.
Yes, as simple as that.
This law, again, you've excited people, you've put a bill in parliament, but there are so many laws which come into parliament and gather dust. Can you tell the people, is this law going to be passed, or it's another white elephant? And how long will it take?
No, first of all, the law will be passed. The day I was granted leave, the Speaker put the matter to the House. Do we grant bursary or leave to bring? The entire House, in fact, the record.
No, there was no objection.
There was no objection. The record says, because you see, sometimes you know the structure of our House. This side, government, this side, opposition, then the independents in the middle. The Speaker looked in all corners, and everybody was up in support. In fact, the government chief whip was asked to make a comment. He said, as government, we've not yet internalized the law, but in principle, we have no problem. First of all, this is a bipartisan law. There is no politics in this. because counterfeiting has no political party. Number two, it is a topical issue that touches the common person. You can bring a law and somebody says, where will this find me? Okay? But how can you say you'll escape counterfeit?
But even if you are high up there, it catches you.
How can you say that? How can you say that? So this is one of those pieces of legislation that touch everybody, every corner of the country. So I expect that in the next 45 days, I should be able to have gone through all the major processes to have the matter, you know,
and then also you will
debated.
consult.
No, that is before consultation. I'm talking about now that process.
Okay.
After I have done the pre-legislation consultation, I have moved around the country. I have gathered views. I have engaged different stakeholders. I have now come back in the House,
Yeah.
with the report of what I've gathered from the House going forward. Okay? We should be able to have a law.
Your
in
message to
45
Ugandans,
days.
to Africans listening
There are
to
2
you
or 3 things.
on how to avoid counterfeits.
There are 2 or 3 things that I want to share with the Ugandans and the world out there. Number one, the issue of consciousness, individual or personal consciousness. There are things we take for granted. And you raise the very fundamental issue. How many people do check expiry dates? How many? So personal consciousness, self-initiative, self-drives.
Personal love,
Exactly.
and care,
So
self-love.
that's one. Number two, knowledge, seeking knowledge. There is no way we are going to address the issue of counterfeit in ignorance. Let us seek knowledge. And knowledge here, I want to look at 2 aspects. One, knowledge on what constitutes counterfeit. Number 2, knowledge on the dangers of counterfeit. Very, very important. Number 3, for the sake of our local, now for the Ugandans, especially my colleagues, the MPs, to take a lot of interest in this piece of legislation. And in fact, the MPs can, even on their own, do their consultations outside my formal ones that I will be making, so that by the time they come to participate in the debate, they are equally informed and they will be able to enrich the debate through the different pieces of information that they will have gathered from their respective constituencies. And also to ask, especially our colleagues in the media, to ask them kindly to give a lot of attention and space to this subject.
Because they're also victims.
They should give a lot of attention and space to this subject. Get the experts on this matter. Give them space. Even they themselves should designate time and staff to study this subject and as part of their corporate social responsibility. That is one of the things they can do for society.
Well, that has been a great discussion, a great conversation, I must say. We have been here, we are still here in the members' lounge of the Parliament. We have been with Honorable Asuman Basalirwa, the mover of the Anti-Counterfeit Goods Bill 2023. Exciting times for us as the Anti-Counterfeit Network and all those who are in the fight against counterfeits. He has assured us that this bill is not a white elephant. It will be passed. I hope you have been able to gain some insights and understanding on what this bill is about. It's still a draft, but he says there is room to input and to adjust and to improve. He has said there will be consultations. Please, if Honorable Basalirwa comes in your neighborhood, your area code, please do participate. We would like to hear your views. The Anti-Counterfeit Goods Bill puts Uganda on the map with other nations which already have legislation protecting against this menace. If you're new here, this is the only show on the planet where we discuss the important but often ignored subject of counterfeits. We would appreciate your audience. Every Friday, we appreciate you subscribing to our channel. We rely on your support. If you like what we're doing, you can please share with your friends, whatever it is, and remember to click that button to put a notification to be reminded about our next program. As always, we would like to sign off. Don't be fake. Buy and sell genuine always.